Cade Klubnik gives us a tearful goodbye. We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network out there. Thank you so much to the everydayers. Big salute out there to you for sticking with us Monday through Friday for exclusive Clemson content all throughout the week. And if you're new to the show, welcome in. Hopefully you'll like it. Listen through to the end, all 3 segments. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And if you do, make sure you hit that follow. Make sure you hit that subscribe so you never miss another episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time in the Game Time app. Today's rundown, we're going to finish up the show, segment 3, if you stick with us, about Clemson's underdog problem. Before that, we'll highlight Clemson basketball's overtime win. Man, a thriller against the Georgia Bulldogs. But first, let's start with the big news, and that is Clemson beating Furman, Clemson winning the military appreciation game in the all-purple out game, I guess you could say. But also the biggest thing is that Cade Klubnik walks off with a standing ovation, which he deserves. Don't get me wrong. He's earned it. And he joins a list of former Clemson quarterbacks. Now you're saying, wait a minute, Morgan, he has 2 more games left, but he is done playing in Death Valley, Clemson Memorial Stadium. So he walks off the field. As you know, Dabo likes to do, let's call that final timeout and get his starters out of there. Cade actually didn't want to leave. You know, he asked for one more play, and that worked out great for him and Antonio Williams. But Cade now is kind of slowly moving into history books for Clemson. And as he walked off the field, a lot of people, cheered and clapped, deservedly so. But a lot of people also wondering, what's next? Where's the future going to be for the quarterback room? Cade Klubnik's era has been really kind of complicated. I mean, he's had a lot of wins that have put him up there in one of the top on the list for Clemson football. When you look at top players overall, Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Charlie Whitehurst, and then you start to kind of fall off a little bit into Cade Klubnik, Cullen Harper, DJ Uiagalelei. Maybe you could jump and vault up because of his era, not because of his stats, but Woody Dantzler, Kyle Parker. Obviously, if you go back further, again, statistically not going to hang with these guys in modern football, but Steve Fuller and Homer Jordan, those guys obviously deserve a little bit more love because of the era that they play. And let's not forget Kelly Bryant, who deserves a lot of respect as well. Where does Cade fall into this place of the list of players? A lot of my friends would say he doesn't belong in any of that list. Well, he does, because he's been a quarterback for 4 years at Clemson. And it was an emotional farewell. Fans do very much appreciate what Cade attempted to do. But I think he'll be remembered as one of those players who was just almost good enough. Never really quite lived up to what the expectations were out there for a 5-star, one of the best, second best, in some places, #1 quarterback. Never really lived up to what you had expected, especially the worst case scenario. He leaves on probably the worst year and the worst season Dabo Swinney has ever had. And honestly, a lot of that is not his fault, but a lot of it most definitely was his fault. Does Cade leaving create a fresh start, or this uncomfortable vacuum? I'm still leaning more towards it's an uncomfortable vacuum. We don't really feel very excited about Christopher Vezina. They allowed Chris Denson to, it's almost like they didn't want to allow him to do much. And he went out there and he balled anyways, which brings a lot of questions to the coaching staff and what they're actually seeing from these players. And they probably don't trust him as a passer as much. Seems a little weak in the passing game, but the electricity is there. The run game is there. And the ability to keep the ball moving. And people say, well, Morgan, it was just Furman. Well, it was just Furman for every other player as well. But Chris Denson showed out. So all the other players had opportunities to show out as well. Whether it was just Furman for Chris Denson, it was also just Furman for Christopher Vezina. I believe that there is definitely going to be a vacuum. And I'm not a proponent, if you will, of going out and paying $3 and $4 million to a quarterback to come in. Now, possibly we've seen examples where you don't have to pay a lot of money to get a good quarterback that's competitive. You need somebody who is a gamer. Chris Denson is a gamer. Maybe he's not the best quarterback, but he's a gamer. He's going to do whatever he can to move that chain and to get into the end zone. And you can't play scared. Deshaun Watson didn't play scared. Trevor Lawrence didn't play scared. Taj Boyd didn't play scared. These guys made a lot of mistakes in their time, but they did not play scared, and they went after the win. Clemson needs a gamer at quarterback. When I think of like Tim Tebow, he was never the best quarterback. He actually, when you saw him more and he got into the NFL, even though he won a playoff game, you could tell he just wasn't that great of a quarterback, but he was a gamer. And he was going to make sure that he rallied the troops. You didn't get that with Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik, as much as they wanted to tell us he was a leader, wasn't evident. He wasn't rallying the offense. He wasn't rallying the defense. And he wasn't going to win a 2-minute drill game down to the wire. Obviously, when it got to the most difficult games, he wasn't going to win those. And so that's what I will remember from him. A guy who, not a bad quarterback, but definitely one who was part of the problem of Clemson having one of the worst seasons in 20 years. If Cade had one more year, would you want him back? So as much as the goodbye was sad, and he's a good kid, don't get me wrong, you'd probably want him to be your son-in-law if you could, because of how good of a person he is. But would you want Cade Klubnik back for one more year? 5 years down the road, would he be a quarterback you would pick to bring back? You would pick Taj Boyd. You'd pick Deshaun Watson. You'd pick Trevor Lawrence. You'd probably pick Charlie Whitehurst. You'd probably pick Woody Dantzler. You'd probably pick Kyle Parker at times. You'd probably pick Kelly Bryant. You probably would pick all those guys to replace Cade, for sure. DJU in some cases, crazily enough. But would you want Cade Klubnik back for one more year? Again, it wasn't all his fault. The offensive line was one of the worst ever. And we need to have some serious discussions about where this offensive line is going. And we will in this offseason. But he didn't have much help from the offensive line. He didn't have much help from a consistent run game. He didn't have much help from consistency at the offensive coordinator position either. So while everything didn't match up for him, he did try his best. He did keep Clemson out of the tabloids. He focused on the right things each week, and he did his best to be genuine, to lead the team. Was it good enough? Well, he did his best. Was the record what we would want? No, not what we'd want. Would we want him back? Probably not. Unfortunately, that's just the case. He's going to go into history as a quarterback Clemson had during the Dabo Swinney era. A lot of the things around Clemson, though, are now leaning me towards that vacuum. And I'm not just saying quarterback. I'm saying many other position groups make me feel like there's going to be more of a vacuum than a fresh start. 2026 is a huge question mark for me about where Clemson football is going. And this offseason could be one of the most significant off seasons that Dabo Swinney has ever had. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you don't have comments over on the podcast, you can always go over on X at the Morgan T Show and give me a shout there. I'd love to get your thoughts as well. We'll get into segment 2. Clemson basketball making a statement this weekend against the Georgia Bulldogs right here on Locked On Clemson. The holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. I can't believe how fast everything is getting shipped. I mean, just in time for the holidays. We just got a rug for downstairs, great room. And I mean, it didn't take any time for it to get here. And actually, we didn't like the first one, so we got another one, and it came even faster. It was crazy. Don't miss out on the early Black Friday deals. Head over to wayfair.com to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Podcast the #1 sports podcast network. And you know, it's a network. Like I say all the time, it is a network because you don't have to just be a Clemson fan. You can be a Carolina fan. We got something for you. You can be a Georgia fan. We got something for you. You can be a New York Knicks fan or Atlanta Braves fan. And there's all these podcasts. I just have a long list of ones that I follow of all the teams that I like. And to be honest with you, a few teams that I really don't like, but I just want to check in on them. You know what I mean? That's what I love about Locked On and why I wanted to be a part of it. All right, let's get into Clemson basketball. Man, they had a huge overtime win against Georgia. And, you know, again, I'm not the biggest basketball fan. I love playing basketball. I love watching basketball. My wife hates watching basketball because of the tennis shoes. They all squeak. So she wouldn't watch it with me. But while the football fans were off, you know, panicking and being all frustrated about the Furman game, even though it was a win, the basketball fans are feeling pretty good. Maybe Clemson is now a basketball school. We can at least say it is. Clemson quietly went 2-0 in Charleston and brought home some hardware, winning the final against Georgia. They beat West Virginia. And let's go back. Okay, so they beat West Virginia. They were trailing by like 10. All right. They beat Georgia. They were also trailing by 10 or more. The team is showing toughness. They're showing depth. And they're showing really good second half composure and shot creation. I mean, to be honest with you, when you look back at those games, you don't really see like one, maybe Carter Welling. Okay, maybe I'll give you Carter Welling. But they're not one player is just absolutely tearing it up. Michael Jordan, Tracy McGrady style, just killing it out there. You know, PJ Hall just taking over the game. You're not really seeing that. This team is playing really good together. Not everybody is great, but everybody is doing a little bit of something to help this team keep moving. And while Georgia, on the other hand, had to have their superstar, I'm not going to, I don't remember his last name, but Eminem, baby Eminem is what I call him because he's the dude with the blonde hair that literally hit every freaking shot possible. I couldn't believe it. I mean, he was hitting layups. He was hitting mid-range. He was hitting deep threes. And Clemson's defense was not playing lax, okay? Clemson was playing really, really good defense. And this baby Eminem guy was just destroying it. Clemson didn't need that, though. They didn't need one player to just absolutely dominate to win this game. Although Justin Porter did have 18 and was nailing some really nice three-pointers late in the game. He seemed like your go-to guy, and he's not a guy that I had circled as a go-to guy, to be honest with you. My go-to guy, number 1, was Welling. Number 2 was Godfrey. Porter was not on my list as a go-to guy, and he really stepped up. That's what I love about the way Brad Brownell builds teams. You know, he's able to bring in guys that work well together in his system. Remember that, in his system. He's not the best recruiter in the world, although he's gotten better. Zach Foster looks like he's still rough around the edges, but he's getting better. And Ace Buckner, also guy who could be a big time contributor as well. But the transfer portal has been really good. Brad Brownell has been really good in the transfer portal. I don't want to say the transfer portal has been good to Brownell. The transfer portal, Brad Brownell has been good in the transfer portal. Okay. So Porter had a great game. Dylan Hunter, is just, again, the one returning veteran outside of, I guess, Godfrey, but he did what he needed to do. He's not amazing. He's not, I do feel like his brother's a little bit of a step ahead of him, but he's not hurting the team. At least at the beginning of the game, he did have a bunch of knuckleheaded passes, but they calmed that down. Welling, Foster, they did well at the end of the game. Overall, the one guy that I really liked late was R.J. Godfrey. He played very tough under the basket. He got a couple of and ones that were really key. Obviously, Porter got a bunch of clutch threes that they needed. Welling got a clutch three. Welling had a few dunks that were just, you got to love it when the man dunks. I mean, I love it. And then Dylan Hunter, again, kind of calmed down. They're winning games, but they're not playing perfect. They're scoring from multiple levels, and they're winning against good teams. Georgia was undefeated. And I truly thought going into this game that they would not win. I was kind of skeptical. I felt like Georgia was just better. Another thing, too, is Georgia's big man fouled out. That was detrimental to them. But if you really think about it, that was a gift that helped them solidify the win. They had to go into overtime for it. But late in the game, Clemson was really controlling the game. It was with that. If Georgia had not had baby Eminem just going off, I believe that the game would have been won by 10 or more points. That's how much better I think Clemson really was. And they didn't have some superstar taking over the game. The defense truly, to me, is what solidifies them. Brad Brownell has always been great on defense. That's what keeps them together, even when the turnovers happen, even when the dumb plays happen, even when the shots aren't falling. The defense really kind of keeps them together, and they don't fold even when they got down at times. And they don't fold even when the offense is not playing perfect, But I like a little bit about everything from this team, And it was really exciting to see. I watched the full game Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, and then I watched the replay this morning, and it just really felt, it just feels good. I feel good about this team. I know it's early, but, we're now kind of slowly getting through the end of November. To me, when I look at basketball, I just look at months. Okay, can we have a successful month? I believe Clemson has done more than be successful in the month of November. They still have a couple of games left, but then, December comes in, just win December. Then you get into some difficulty when you get into January, February. That's definitely the core of your ACC run. But that's the way I've always looked at it since I've been doing Clemson podcasting for what now? Gosh, 5, 6, 7 years now. That's how I look at it. And Brownell has yet again built a team that is very well-rounded. When you look at the early Brownell teams, it was like one player and then a bunch of other Jags, right? Just another guy, right? It was one star and then everybody else was just kind of like, eh. This is a team where it's like no true superstar, or like legit in an NBA guy, but the whole team is guys that you trust to be out there, and they got a great rotation too. So they're not going to me, be hurt too bad by foul trouble. The one thing that I will say that I know you're going to want me to say on here is Davidson. Where the heck has he been? I mean, he's not scoring at all. I don't really know if he's doing much at all on this team right now. So, and this is all to be said. They got one of their starters that's really not helping them. So if Davidson comes out and figures it out, then maybe, just maybe, this team's going to be a legit contender for the ACC. I mean, I don't want to get too excited, but this might be one of the most tough and well-rounded Brownell teams that he's had in years. The biggest thing is stay healthy, and they've got a good roster of guys that, don't seem injury prone like he's had in the past that's hurt him as well. So I mean, to be honest with you, I like this team. I think they look good. I think they're working well together. They rotate very well. They're unselfish and they fight through some tough times to still get these wins. So great start to the season for Brad Brownell. Maybe Clemson is a basketball team going forward. All right, segment 3, we're going to finish this up with a little bit of talk about hate week and the fact that Clemson is an underdog against South Carolina right here on Locked on Clemson. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets, well, that can feel like more than a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices that jump at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time for the Furman game, and I told you about this. There's these zone ticket deals where it gives you the best ticket in that area at the lowest price. You can get games. I saw them $25, $30. It's great. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, yes, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Game Time. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Oh, it's hate week. And it's segment 3. So thanks for sticking with me. It is hate week. Why, oh why is Clemson an underdog to a terrible losing team like South Carolina? What does that really say to Clemson about Clemson? Well, it doesn't say very good. And especially after the Furman game, it honestly might be warranted. Clemson is a 2.5-point underdog and a team that really against a South Carolina team that really isn't that good. And that is a statement, and it's not a good statement. And the statement is that Clemson really also isn't that good of a team. Now, I will say 2.5 points typically is your Vegas norm for home field advantage. I would say 2.5, 1, 3 points. Those are your home field advantage spreads. So they are literally saying that Clemson, South Carolina are pretty even outside of the fact that it is played at Williams-Brice Stadium. But to be honest with you, Vegas didn't do this to Clemson. Clemson did this to Clemson. Clemson has been inconsistent week after week. Their offensive coordinator in Garrett Riley has been anything but coordinating this team. It seems like he's been so inconsistent, doesn't know what he's doing a lot of times, is throwing the plays against a wall and hoping that something will work. Oftentimes forgetting the run, oftentimes forcing his offensive line to do pulls and counters that they just cannot do, but still forcing them to do so. And you can't count on Cade Klubnik. 1 minute, he looks like he knows what he's doing. The next minute, the only guy he can really throw to is Antonio Williams. He has so many different weapons, but he only chooses to look at 1 or 2 guys. He also won't stay in the pocket when you need him to. And when you call a play that is a better play, a lot of times Cade may take it into his own hands and maybe decide to hand it off to Peter Woods, even when Peter Woods wasn't waiting for the ball, wasn't expecting the ball. The defense on the other side hasn't been any better. I mean, they've gotten a little bit better the past 2 weeks, but, they also have played worse teams. But the Clemson defense has been a little bit of everything except for being able to get to the quarterback. Peter Woods, not a first-rounder in my eyes. TJ Parker, not a first-rounder in my eyes. Those guys have not been making the impact that we thought they would be making. So, is this last regular season game as Clemson an underdog against their hated rival South Carolina, who only has 4 wins? Is this warranted? Yes. Who did this to them? Not Vegas. Clemson did this to themselves. Clemson's struggles have been the reason why they can't be trusted. You can't trust them. And honestly, I wouldn't pick Clemson minus or plus the spread at all because you just can't trust what they're going to do. And to be honest with you, they struggled against Furman in the ways that they can't against South Carolina. And one of those is protection of the quarterback. And one of those is getting a run game established. Did you know that Clemson could not get third down and short conversions against Furman? Did you know that Clemson had to go for fourth down against Furman just to move the chains? That Clemson had to bring out their starting defense late in the game to stop Furman from moving the ball down the field because their backups could not stop anything? I tell you what, this was a great win for Clemson, a military appreciation win, a send-off on senior night win. But it was not a good win because of the struggles that Clemson had. It was not a good win also because of the injuries that Clemson sustained in this game. That was an unnecessary need. Jaheim Lawson in the game late in the season, late in the game. He's been one of the only bright spots on the defensive front, and he is now out for the season. A major ankle injury for him. Major knee injury for your starting tight end and Olsen Pat Henry. These things are the things that were the worst thing that could happen in a game like this, and they let them happen. The real story to me is that Clemson did this to themselves. You know, every bit of frustration is now to the point where they have to play the one game that everybody cares about, and they're not even the favorite there. And they should have been a playoff team. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, but didn't do it. And that is where Clemson is at. And again, I said I led the show with Cade Klubnik and all that. And Cade is kind of the figurehead of the team, being the quarterback, and he deserves the praise and also the criticism. But really, the point that we've gotten to where we're at with this team is all the doing of themselves, and not just doing of themselves, doing of the position coaches, doing of the coordinators, and the doings of Dabo Swinney, and allowing poor recruiting with poor portal usage year over year over year. And then, as we saw with Chris Denson, and as we saw with other players, continued attempts to play the more tenured player, the more experienced player over the gamer, over the guy who has the heart, over the guy who has the drive, over the guy who has the raw talent. Finally, after just much pain, they got Gideon Davidson in the game more. Finally, after much pain, they got Braden Jacobs in the games more. Finally, after much pain, they got Jaheim Lawson in the games more. And then finally, after almost the whole game, they got Chris Denson in the game more. And then also you could throw in Tristan Smith as well. And even Jeremiah Alexander. And Corian Gibson. If anything could reflect back on this season for Clemson, is Dabo's reluctance to make changes quick enough with this team. A lot of the adjustments needed to be made 2 or 3 years ago, and are just the results of problems 2 or 3 years ago. But a lot of the things that got better this season took so long because they took so long. And now Clemson is where it's at. At least they're bowl eligible. I would have hated to gone into this game without being bowl eligible and then forcing a win to South Carolina to make you bowl eligible, because a team like South Carolina that has nothing to play for has that to play for. Now they can't take that away from Clemson. Now it is just the real story, and the real story is pride. Clemson needs to avoid losing 2 straight to South Carolina. You let them beat you at home. Actually, 2 years in a row. The road team has actually had a better record so far. South Carolina and Shane Beamer, who was cheering at halftime and then got beat against Texas A&M. You cannot let a head coach like that win this game. You have to protect your rivalry. You have to protect your state. You have to protect the recruiting battles, whether you use them or not, and avoid a 6-6 season. Honestly, an 8-win season still on the board, crazily enough. But if this game is a loss, you not only frustrate yourself as a player, as a coach, but you frustrate literally everyone wearing orange and graduating from Clemson with a diploma on their wall for the next 365 days, because the Gamecock fans are not going to let it up. And they shouldn't. For Gamecock, for South Carolina, beating Clemson means everything right now. Beamer's rebuild message, hey, they're going to be in the playoffs next year. Did you hear him? It all starts with beating Clemson. In that rebuild journey, it all starts with this weekend, beating your rival, taking down Dabo yet again, who is a much more awarded and successful coach than you are. But it will prove a lot of the haters out there right if you lose. My biggest question, and we'll get into it the rest of this week, is how in the world is Clemson going to run the football against this team who has a great defensive line when they couldn't do it against Furman? And my first answer to you, I'll go ahead and give you the insider info. I don't know the answer yet, and I don't think they will be able to. I'm worried about that. I really am. Clemson should win the game on what we think they have on the team, but will they? The shouldas, wouldas, couldas has all put Clemson at just 6 wins. So Clemson has to prove this last game and show that they're playing for something more than just getting to a bowl, than just getting a win. They're playing for the pride of the jersey that they're wearing, of the university that they chose to go to. We'll continue to talk about this throughout the week. Hopefully you're getting ready for your holiday. Hopefully it's not going to be too crazy. Safe travels as you head out either today or tomorrow. And I'll stick with you here. You'll get more Locked On Clemson throughout this week, this holiday week, as we lead up to the South Carolina game. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs, Alex Dono, they break down the most interesting college conference and college sports, from the rivalries to the championships to every game in between. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.